Thank you. Is anybody else having trouble with that cookie? I might have had two. That's my trouble. I'd like to ask a simple question before we get started, because there was a comment made earlier by one of the speakers that hopefully this is not a meeting simply of the already converted and already predisposed. Who in this room has come to this set of issues within the last year? The table of folks that are 22 years old are the ones that raise their hands. So that's actually what I was worried about, because I have a good friend, and I've been doing it for about 15 years, but a good friend who's been doing this for well over 30 years in Pennsylvania. And it's time we stop talking to ourselves, because all of us have for decades tried to have rational conversations with rational people with solid data to support our arguments. So today there are 600 of us at Thaddeus Stevens College after 30 years of having this argument. My concern, and we're going to hear from two folks who are critical to our agenda's future, but my concern is that we may have to do exactly what I don't want to do, which is to find the biggest blow-up animal we can find, pump it up on the steps of the General Assembly, and scream louder than somebody else standing next to us. I'm hoping we can continue the tradition of discourse, respect for opinions, and scream a little bit louder. And so with that, it is absolutely my pleasure to introduce the policy chair in two chambers in Pennsylvania. The first of which is Representative Mike Sturla. Representative Sturla was first elected representing the 96th Legislative District in Lancaster County in 1991. He began his public service in 1987 as a member of Lancaster City Council. And for both of these gentlemen, they have a vast level of expertise, not just in Harrisburg politics and government, but most importantly to this issue, they bring with them to Harrisburg understanding and expertise in local government in Pennsylvania. Representative Sturla is currently the chairman of the Majority Policy Committee in the House and has served on standing committees of Appropriations, Transportation, Health, Education, Urban Affairs. Thank you very much for being here, Representative. And the question everyone's going to get is, are you going to work with us? Please come to the table. Just come right here.
Well, thanks. And the answer is yes. But before we get started too quickly, I just want to let Tony know that there's a misprint on your schedule. It's actually 15 minutes, not 5. And I'm colorblind. So the things that I want to point out is earlier today it was stated that we're living in what I essentially call a 1960s model of government and the way we do things here in Pennsylvania. And along with that, in the mid-60s came the ability not to annex anyone. And David Rusk, who I saw earlier, had written extensively about that in one of his books. I think part of what we need to do is, in addition to changing the way we do things, we need to change the way we think. And I'm going to give you a whole lot of examples here of the way we need to change the way we think about some ideas. I'll just blow through these because I'm going to run out of time. Special education funding formula. We just passed that in the House. It's over in the Senate. For the past 20 years, we've assumed that there's 16% special needs students in the state of Pennsylvania. There is and have been for the last 20 years. There have been for 50 years. The only problem is they aren't homogeneously spread across the state like we assume. And so some districts do okay with that formula and others get killed with that formula. Mostly urban districts get killed with that formula. My school district has 11,000 students. This county has 500,000 people. All 7 of the homeless shelters that exist in my county of 500,000 people exist in my city. And that makes sense from a planning standpoint because that's where those people can get access to services. And when you're homeless, the thing you need best is the easy access to services. But guess what? Not all of those homeless people originated in my city. They originated in all the other 59 municipalities out around my city, as well as my city. No other school district has homeless students. My school district has 900 homeless students a year. And when I talk to my surrounding legislators, they say, it's a shame you have that problem. Because when somebody became homeless in their district, they left and came to my district. It's our problem. When I'm in the suburbs and I want to make sure my kid gets to school safely, I stand in my driveway next to my Lexus in my bunny slippers and I wave goodbye to my kid as they get on the school bus. And the state pays for that school bus. In my urban district, when I want to make sure my kid gets to school safely, I form a volunteer task force of parents to make sure there's an escort through drug-infested neighborhoods because the state won't even pay for crossing guards in my city. When I want to buy a new fire engine in my city that has a paid fire department, I use my own local ability to do bond issues, and I get a pretty lousy rate by comparison. If I happen to live in a suburban area where they have a volunteer fire department, the state has a grant program that helps me buy a new pumper truck, and it's either a grant or a loan at 2%. And we put $25 million a year into that program every year so that somebody else can get free fire protection. And I can pay for mine and pay for my trucks. When my local police department, which is about 40% of my budget, amounts to about $17 million a year, I think, in our city budget, we pay for local police protection, as does 80% of the state. About 20% of the state has no local police department and relies on free police protection from the state police. That line item that provides that free state police protection is $500 million a year. If you divide that by the number of people and you divide that by legislative districts, which I like to do with my colleagues, that's like those districts that get the free police protection getting a $10 million a year wham every year. I keep saying to my colleagues, you give me the $10 million wham each year, I'll stop complaining about it. On roads, the state of Pennsylvania has 40,000 miles of roads, 20,000 miles of which get less than 2,000 cars a day. In any other state in the nation, those would be local roads, and in most cases, they'd be dirt. We have the best back road system of any state in the nation. We have one of the worst major road systems of any state in the nation. It's because our priorities are such that we're more worried about paving the back roads, which are easy to pave, than we are about paving the good roads. Mass transit's one I always get told, well, yeah, but you have a mass transit system. Every county in the state of Pennsylvania has a mass transit system. And if you happen to live in Philadelphia or the 5 surrounding counties, you're part of SEPTA. You get subsidized with state and federal subsidies $2 per rider. If you happen to live in one of the more rural parts of the state, I see that green card. If you happen to live in one of the more rural parts of the state, your subsidy for mass transit is between $15 and $22 per rider. I keep getting told that all the money for mass transit's being wasted in Philadelphia and the surrounding suburbs. So I did actually see the red card. I've got a list of things about 3 times as long that I'd love to share with you at some point in time. Maybe we can do that next year. Thanks.